Not sure we're going deep enough. Yeah, I think you need police, you need parents for sure, you need schools, you need to clean up social media, you need all that. But you may need an exorcist too.
During a discussion about red flag laws to, prevent people with severe mental health issues from purchasing lethal weapons and high capacity magazines, Bill Bennett, who was the Secretary of Education under Reagan, pitched a new idea to curb gun violence in America. So what exactly would that be? What would exorcisms help with when it comes to mass shootings? Well, let's hear him explain.
Oh, good.
These boys, these men, these young men, they have deeply spiritual problems, deeply. If you go into the labyrinthine caves of the internet, way down, and I don't recommend it, it's ugly stuff. And these guys dwell there, they live there, they drench themselves in it. And it's as ugly and evil as it gets. We're the ministers, we're the rabbis, the priests. It's a deeply spiritual void, I think, that these young men have in their hearts and their souls. And I think it needs to be addressed. And I don't think we get at it, frankly, with these externalities, as important as some of them may be, and they may be. We need to do it all, but we need to do more.
Yes, that is the problem with mass shootings. There's a deep spiritual void among American men. No problems with that in other countries, right? There's an abundance of spirituality in other countries, which is why they don't have issues with gun violence? Or could it be that the one thing that differentiates the United States from other countries is that we have an abundance of guns that are readily available to anyone, regardless of what their record is, regardless of what a threat they might be to society. Guns everywhere, guns for everyone.
Yeah, so guys, Bill Bennett was the education secretary under Ronald Reagan. Let's pause for a second to absorb that he was the education secretary.
It actually makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, you know what? In a weird way, me too. So explain why.
It makes me feel better because, and look, I still think this is true to a large extent, but everything today feels like it's unraveled, like things have devolved and gotten much, much worse in the United States. The Republican Party is just full of lunatics who are validated in their lunacy on a daily basis. But it feels good to know that the Republican Party has long included all sorts of lunatics. It's just that maybe the media didn't cover it as much as it does now. So knowing that Bill Bennett was a crazy person within the Reagan administration in the 80s makes me feel like maybe things didn't devolve as much as we thought it did.
Yeah, so I thought the same thing, but that cuts both ways.
Yeah.
So it turns out they were always freaks. They just didn't fly their freak flags as proudly as they do today, right? So Bill Bennett seemed like a relatively reasonable person in the Reagan era. He was a right winger, but he never came out and be like, we need to do exorcisms. And if their heads are going around, you bring in a priest and sprinkle holy water on them. But now that you're allowed to come out of the crazy closet because of the Trump era, Bill Bennett comes out and he's like, oh yeah, of course, the answer is that Linda Blair and the head going around a couple of times or whatever the hell you do in an exorcism, which is of course the province of absolute lunatics. Satan is not possessing people, sprinkling holy water on them is not going to solve anything. Zero, because it isn't true, it's a fantasy. You guys don't know it, but you're nuts if you believe that. Anyways, okay, so then on the facts, Anna's right. Well, if the problem is that we're not religious enough, Northern Europe is far less religious than us. That's not a dispute. All the evidence shows it. They so much more atheists in Northern Europe as a percentage of their population. They have almost no mass shootings. How come nobody had to sprinkle holy water on them? How come there didn't need to be any exorcism there? Maybe, just maybe, it isn't Satan, that it's actually guns, you idiots.
What happens during an exorcism exactly?
They speak in tongues and say stupid, crazy stuff that doesn't make any sense.
They get real physical with the person who's being.
So oftentimes they kill people in exorcisms. They killed a young kid just a couple of weeks ago. We reported on the show. The mom and the priest took him and beat the living crap out of this poor 3-year-old because they thought if Satan was making the kid cry.
Yeah, I guess we need more of that to keep people safe in America.
Yeah.
I don't like. What do we do with this? What do we do with it? Like, what do we do with it?
No, but that's my main point, Anna.
Yeah.
And I've been asking it now for months on air. I'm worried that I'm being too repetitive. But what do you do when it turns out, and it's been true all along, we just didn't know they were hiding it, when 40% of the country doesn't believe in facts, doesn't believe in logic. They just blew up a monument in Georgia because it was devoted to reason. I mean, what do you do when somebody doesn't speak the same language as you and the language of logic and truth? Like in Western civilization, one of the cornerstones is science and truth. That's what makes Western civilization interesting, fascinating, awesome, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to tear down Western civilization while pretending to be in favor of it. No, Western civilization is not just being white, you idiots. It's science and truth and logic and reason, and you hate it. And we have to live with them. And we can't even talk to them because we say, hey, we've got stats that show definitively that the more guns there are, the more gun homicides there are, and the more massacres there are, the more mass shootings there are. It is not in dispute. There's no question about it. Overwhelming data. And they're like, or it could be Beelzebub. Well, how do you have that conversation?
Well, I mean, the framers thought about that, which is why the Constitution protects us from these religious zealots. That's why there is a separation of church and state, despite the fact that right-wingers like Charlie Kirk didn't even bother to read the Constitution and say that a separation of church and state doesn't actually exist, something I talked about on the show yesterday. But really what we need is to defend our constitutional rights and constitutional protections, and that's hard to do when the religious zealots have installed other religious zealots into the United States Supreme Court. So we're in a lot of trouble. I'm not gonna lie about that. But we gotta resist in any way we can.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.